Hello everybody, this is Dr. Novak again. You're looking at the tank now, what the tank looked like. And before we get into the video, exactly part 2 of the Sid Mitchell article that was written, before we get into that, in case you're not interested in that article, I thought, you see the plant here, the lotus? You see these lotus leaves here and some over here. The reason they have holes in them, of course, are from snails, but that's not a bad thing because these are very old leaves, and those submerged leaves are old. Therefore, the snails, I have some little white snails that you may be able to see. Their shell, there's one up there. They'll come, and only when the leaf is very old will you start seeing holes being into leaf. Then that way you know that these are very old leaves. They're getting real thin. They're ready to either break off on the lotus. The red ones are the same way. If you go on this side, those are very old leaves. They're a few months old. And like all plants, its life cycle is done for that leaf. These are newer leaves, as you can see, and over here, these are all newer leaves. But the old ones, the snails are going to start attacking, and they're actually going to just break off by the stem and float to the top. So when you see this, and people say snail damage, that's okay. That's an old leaf. It's dying anyway. And the only time snails will really damage something, as you see, no damage here, is that's because it is old. It's on its way out, and the cellulose of the leaf is breaking down, so it's easier for them to chew up and digest for their food. So in one way, the snails are telling you that's an old leaf and it's going to be breaking off and polluting your tank, so you could either remove it or let the snails eat it until finally from the stem, it will actually just break from the stem. Very, very common with lotus, okay? That's just very common. And remember, these are bulbs, so they will have to go into a resting period. They will grow and grow, and then they'll have the submergent leaves and emergent leaves, and they may even flower. A lot of them will, but it's just something that when you buy these plants and you see them in books or whatever, that's when they're a nice fresh plant like this. See how nice that looks? And as you can look at the tank, now see, I'm a kind of hobbyist, maybe like some of yous are. I don't mess with the tank a lot. I admit it. I don't cut things. I don't trim things like other hobbyists do. You see, if you look at older photographs, you'll see how the Java moss is growing together there. That pretty much shows you the growth pattern of that. That's really, this moss here is actually the same as the moss up there, which is actually the common name for it is they call it a flame moss. Okay. That's what this actually is. It's bought by Petco, and I'll put the name above that. You know what the scientific name and all. But the common name of that is just called a flame moss. You buy it at any Petco. I think you can buy them at PetSmart. But as you can see, it's starting to grow in together, and then this big sum here of moss is actually starting to grow on pieces of wood over there, even though I put some newer flame moss and glued it on, and I showed you in the video what glue I use and everything. You don't have to buy that special glue that they sell in stores. I think in one of my videos I show you what glue to get. You get it at any hardware store. Okay, and it doesn't cost a lot. The glue that they sell, special glue, you know, for hobbyists, that's basically just an overpriced glue that you can buy at your hardware store, and I show it in my video of what glue I use. And it dries real fast, so all you have to do is empty your tank, Even if the wood is wet, put some of that super glue on it, put your moss on it. Just wait about a minute or two, do your stuff with the tank and fill it back up, and boom. As you can see, the moss stays right where you put it. It like I said, you buy it at any Lowe's or Home Depot, that glue. And it's cheaper than if you go buy the specialty hobbyist glue, okay, that they sell. It's the same glue. I've never found it to cause any problems or the fish dying from it or anything. But anyhow, I just wanted to show you, update these leaves here. They're all getting older, and the snails will start attacking these red ones. You can already see holes in these older leaves. The Anubias is doing good. It keeps shooting out about a new leaf every, I'm going to say about every week or two. Snails have gotten it. Pretty soon this leaf is just going to break off. And then that's an old leaf. That's months and months old. So, of course, your little bitty pond snails are going to eat them. Some people don't like it. It's unsightly. But even if they didn't chew on this leaf, it would start breaking down anyhow. You would just see it start disintegrating in your tank. So, let the snails go eat it. And, you know, the good thing is a lot of people don't like snails. I like to take the snails, and once in a while, if I catch them in my hands, I crumble them up and let them fall down here, and the fish eat the snails. So they actually act like a live food, free food. Anyhow, I did want to show you the moss, that this big pile of moss here is actually growing on a piece of wood. Moss really likes wood, and it takes a while for it to take off, so be very patient when it comes to moss, okay? Nothing's going to come real quickly when it comes to moss. You can see it's beginning, some of the newer moss. You can tell it's growing, but it may take months. But just be patient with it, and it will reward you as time keeps going on. The big thing you want to do, of course, as we all know, you'll want to keep algae and stuff off of it. But other than that, it does very good. I have some Amano shrimp in here. No, you can't see any. Okay, but there are Amano shrimp. The Amano shrimp did great. Okay, when the shipment came in, I think there was one dead, and I think one died the next day. They explain to you how to acclimate them, a little different than what the YouTube videos are showing, but they say this is the way to acclimate them. And you know what? They did great, and they've grown. Now, that's one thing I was surprised how fast, because they were no bigger. I would say they were an inch or less, okay? And now I would say they're at least going on an inch and a half. I think their full size is 2 inches. I'm surprised how fast the Amano shrimp have grown, and I wish I could show you one, but they're getting to be good size within a matter of just, you know, a few weeks, which is great. I don't know if anyone else has good luck with their shrimp growing very quickly, going up to size, but in this aquarium, they seem to be growing very quickly up to size. And as you see, I have plants down here, which I didn't plant, and I basically leave it alone. You have your sword, your model sword in here. It's kind of competing now against the moss, but a lot of people would say, oh, I would move that, or, you know, I'm not that kind. If the moss takes over everything, okay. If the Java fern takes over everything, okay. You know, that's part of the way I like it. That's part of the way I do it. That's just the way it is. I like the tank to be a changing picture, you know, and I kind of leave it out of my control on trying to constantly trim it and make it look picture perfect that you see. But imagine now, in months from now, all that moss that's on the wood, that's all going to start spreading like this, and all this is going to be moss, and it'll be real nice for the fish to and shrimp to get into, to eat particulate matter. Well, that's it. Everything seems to be doing good. No algae problems whatsoever. Oh, and before we get into the video, I did want to say something. I just got an email. Not that this email is Andrew. I won't give you his last name. Andrew is from the United Kingdom, okay? And I won't give you his last name because I don't have permission to really give you his name, and plus privacy. He deserves the privacy. But he wrote me an email, and I was really surprised. And I'm going to read you the two emails he sent me. Andrew has been communicating with me, and I said, hey, if you're going to do a plenum, Andrew, just keep me informed, because you have my email. Just keep me informed. He's a guy who was off the YouTube. I said, keep me informed. I do try to get to people that do email me. I try. Probably some are still saying, yeah, I'm waiting for you to contact me. But I get hundreds of emails a day, every single day. It just never stops. So I do try, people. I really do, to get to everybody. I know some emails go on the back burner sometimes. I don't mean to do it, but it's just that with all the emails I get, I do try to communicate with people and be friendly with them and help them out. So if you're one of those people that have fallen into the cracks, I apologize for that. But anyhow, let me read you this since it says, hello again, Doctor. Just a little update on my plenum system. I'm now running a slow-moving plenum in 12 of my 17 tanks. And wow, what can I say? Amazing results. I have went from, listen to this, 300 parts per million nitrates. And every other day water changes. Now, before he changed 12 of his 17 tanks to slow-moving plenums. He breeds shrimp. And because he breeds shrimp, he apparently says they're very delicate. Some shrimps are, some shrimps are not. And but he says a moving plenum system is what he made, the slow-moving plenum system, 12 out of his 17 tanks. And wow, what can I say? Amazing results I have went from. Listen to this, 300 parts per million of nitrates. Holy cow, 300 parts per million. I think the highest nitrates I've ever tested in a freshwater system, a pond, was 400. That was in China. Yeah, that was in China. 300, wow, that's amazing, of nitrates. And every other day water changes. Okay, now he's down to 20 parts per million and only weekly water changes. Some of my tanks are now reading 0 parts per million nitrates. Thank you again for sharing your wealth of knowledge. This has made my hobby a lot easier and more enjoyable. Andrew, I mean, that's why I do it. You see something like this, and somebody like in the United Kingdom, you don't realize that that when you do a video, it reaches out to people all over the world. And it's amazing that now you can talk to people not only in the United States, but people in the United Kingdom, Australia, and you don't realize how far you're reaching out to help people. And he sent another one. Hello again. I still have 4 shrimp tanks that have no plenum installed. And I went to install them, but as you know, I want to install them. I'm sorry. I want to install them, but as you know, how delicate these little creatures are, I'm a bit wary, as they have just started to colonize and don't want to shock them. 2 of my newly set up shrimp tanks are both running plenums, and I can see the benefit. I don't know whether to just bite the bullet and go for it. So apparently he's seen a bigger benefit when he makes a plenum for his shrimp tanks than the ones that have no plenum at all. Okay. And I am also in the process of setting up a 4-foot by 2-foot by 2-foot tank for my brother's arowana. He was just going to dump the gravel into the tank until I showed him my test results from the plenum system. So we're just waiting for the undergravel filter plates coming in to set up again a tank Thank you for all your help and support. Never again will I set up a tank without a plenum. Andrew. Okay, that's good to hear. Once again, like he said, his brother is going to set up a nice tank. Uh, you can always set it up using have a little bit of gravel and then set up a grid in there so if the arowana messes up something, it won't go any further than maybe an inch or a half inch. And you can use a black mesh on top of it. And even if you had geophagus, they're only going to dig so far. Even if you had goldfish, they're only going to dig so far, let them spit out the gravel, and then all you have to do is go in there and straighten it up. But that would be your, this top part anyhow is your aerobic zone anyhow. So as long as they don't touch the rest of the anoxic filter here, you're good to go, because that's where the high oxygen is going to be anyway. So if your fish does mess it up and you put a screen in there and it can't go any further, what's the big deal, right? So that's your high oxygen zone anyhow, as I've explained in my other videos. So there you have it, another person talking about his shrimp tanks and how well they're doing. And now we'll get on to the video. Okay, we are now going to get into part 2. We will describe how to build an anoxic filtration system and how ammonia can be drawn into the basket and destroyed without leaving nitrate to build up in a pond or aquarium. Okay, nitrifying bugs are everywhere. Nitrifying bugs, nitrogen cycle bugs, are abundant in nature. They do not just grow and thrive in a biological filter. In fact, they will grow everywhere in a pond or an aquarium environment. In a natural pond environment, in a natural pond, lake, or river, they grow on every available surface. This includes the pond bottom, rocks, and plants. In an ornamental pond, they will also grow on all available surfaces, not just within the filter. The purpose of a biological filter is to make a bacterial-friendly environment that will concentrate the bulk of the population in one easy-to-manage area where the main nitrogen cycle will occur. That's the same thing you're trying to do with a plenum. You're trying to make it isolate everything right at the bottom of the aquarium, because as we know that when bacteria is free floating in the aquarium, it doesn't do us any good. It doesn't oxidize anything. It's useless. The bacteria has to find basically a home, and then it will start doing what it does. Okay, but that does not mean that this is the only place where ammonia is being nitrified, turned into nitrates. Ammonia is also being nitrified throughout the whole aquarium or pond. All that is necessary for this to occur is a wet surface and a supply of ammonia, oxygen, and carbonates. And he's absolutely right. A wet surface. That's how wet dry filters became popular back in the 80s. All they found out is you could have a wet surface, let water drip over it from the aquarium, and you could actually take care of your ammonia 30 times quicker than if you did in a just completely submerged aquarium, Taking all the biological medium out of the filtration system, therefore, will not stop the production of nitrate altogether. It will still be produced elsewhere. So those people that have bare bottom aquariums and stuff, you still are continuing the nitrifying process, whether it be on the bottom of the glass or if you put a pot in there or anything. It is still going to continue the nitrifying process. It may not be immediately obvious, but there are also ample opportunities for the nitrogen cycle to take place actually within the biocenosis clarification baskets themselves. The baskets are underwater, and so Stating the obvious, all surfaces of the clay particles are wet. The water that is just inside the basket will also be rich in oxygen and carbonate, so we have the ideal place for nitrifying bugs to set up home and to convert ammonia to nitrate. If nitrate is actually produced within the basket, that is designed to eliminate the nitrate. Does this mean that these baskets are a failure? Not in the least, as will be described later. There are two equations that I lightheartedly refer to as what Nitrosomonas and Nitrobacteria eat for lunch. They are included for these that may be interested, so I will include them here in this video. Like I said, a lot of people won't be interested in it, but some of you may be interested. It is not necessary for the purpose of this article to try to understand them, but they are how a biochemist would make sense of the nitrogen cycle. The description following the equations that explain what they mean has been simplified as far as possible with all the nasty chemistry taken out. You may need to read it a couple of times to understand it, or if you prefer, you may safely skip the equations and the paragraph that follow them. Okay, so I'm going to give you the equations that we biochemists look at for bacteria. Oh, what the equations tell us, you either can count atoms and molecules, or you can take my word for it, that these equations could very roughly be described as saying minus 1 molecule of ammonia plus 4 molecules of oxygen plus 7 molecules of carbonate become 1 molecule of nitrate plus a bit of bug tissue. That is what C5H7O2N means in these equations, a molecule of bug. In other words, the bacteria can be thought as eating ammonia, oxygen, and carbonate and getting a slightly bigger. Even when they have consumed enough, each bug will divide into 2 separate bugs, but that is beyond the scope of what I'm talking about. Okay, if we ignore the carbonate and also ignore the fact that the bugs are getting fatter in the process, we will just concern ourselves with what happens to the ammonia. It gets even simpler. 1 ammonia plus 4 oxygen eventually equals 1 nitrate. Let us now apply this to what is going on inside a biocenosis basket, or a plenum for that matter, and follow the ammonia molecule as they are drawn by the laterite or your kitty litter oil dry into the basket to their doom. What you're looking at is a cutaway of a biocenosis basket, but I've also showed you in other videos the process of how it happens inside your plenum. The picture you're seeing, for clarity, zone A and B have not been drawn to scale. In practice, these two zones are only a few millimeters thick before all the oxygen has been exhausted. Okay? So, in zone A that you're looking at, which is the dark blue, negative charges in the laterite start to attract, that's also in the clay that you're using, to attract ammonia molecules towards the center of the basket. As these molecules pass through zone A, nitrifying bacteria, nitrogen cycle bugs, will grab 1 ammonia molecule and 4 oxygen molecules. They will then excrete 1 nitrate molecule. Let's see what this gets even a little more. The ammonia level in zone A will have dropped a little. The nitrate level will have risen by roughly the same amount, but the oxygen will have dropped considerably, 4 times as much. Although there is now far less oxygen, there will still be enough of it for the nitrogen cycle to continue. We will continue to journey with the ammonia molecule into zone B. Zone B, the light blue. As more and more ammonia is converted to nitrate, Now you got to remember this also happens in a plenum. Ammonia levels drop even more and the nitrate levels rise. So much oxygen has been used in the process that this area can no longer be called truly aerobic, oxygen rich, but there is still a little oxygen left to sustain some nitrifying bacteria. So we will follow the remaining ammonia as it journeys into zone C, which is the red zone. Remember I showed you in my earlier videos the different kind of zones. So if you didn't watch my earlier videos, go to the earlier ones and I will show you exactly like these different zones in a plenum and how it works. Zone C. The biochemistry in this zone is the stuff that nightmares and almost defies simplicity. But I will try to explain it to you here. The ammonia is still being pulled remorsefully towards the laterite or whatever clay substrate you're using, or if it's a plenum. So just don't get your mindset that, oh, it's laterite. No, it could be electrical charge in your plenum, or it could be electrical charge in the kitty litter, oil dryer, whatever you're using for your BCB basket. But, okay, but almost all oxygen in water has already been used. The nitrogen cycle, as we know it, ceases. Nitrification cannot occur if dissolved oxygen levels are below 2 parts per million, and it will be lower than that in zone C. In this zone, facultative anaerobic heterotrophic bacteria live. The first thing to understand about this zone is what on earth is a facultative anaerobic heterotrophic bug anyway? Roughly speaking, facultative anaerobes means that it has the facility or ability to live anaerobically, okay, where there is very little oxygen, provided it can steal some. Heterotrophic bacteria is simply a description of their eating habits. They like to eat organic molecules. So a facultative anaerobic heterotrophic is simply a bug that can live where there is very little oxygen and likes to eat organic molecules. So, that's not so hard to understand, is it? Where it can steal its supply of oxygen from is not hard to understand either. Remember, the nitrate that was produced by the nitrogen cycle bugs. This is where usually most people say the nitrogen cycle ends. No. The chemistry symbol for nitrate is NO3, one atom of nitrogen joined to 3 atoms of oxygen. For a facultative anaerobic heterotroph, this is a feast. It can easily take the 3 oxygen atoms and leave the nitrogen atom. N2, right? As I explained to you. Although it is convenient to refer to bugs eating ammonia or nitrate and needing oxygen, in practice they do not have little mouths, nor indeed do they have lungs. Ammonia, nitrate, and oxygen are simply absorbed directly through their cell walls, just as if we were able to eat by placing food onto our stomachs or breathing by absorbing oxygen through our chest. When oxygen is taken from nitrate, it is this way the atom of the oxygen enters the bug and the nitrogen is left behind. This nitrogen is still dissolved in the pond or aquarium water, but it will be pleased to leave the water behind and go back into the atmosphere at the first opportunity. And that's what it does. It gases off denitrogen. In this way, although there are nitrogen cycle bugs living in the biocenosis basket or plenum, and they will be busy putting nitrate into the water, but other bugs in the same basket or plenum are just as busy disposing of it. The overall effect of the basket is to totally remove ammonia with no byproduct chemicals remaining in the water. There's more. Okay, there's even more to it than that. If that was all the biocenosis basket and plenum achieved, it would be pretty marvelous. But there is even more science going on. We haven't even considered the full extent of what the laterite or your plenum is doing yet, or your kitty litter is doing yet, other than to say that uh, electrical charges attract ammonia molecules towards the center of the basket or in your plenum. If you remember earlier videos, how I explained how your plenum becomes electrically charged. People don't know that substrate becomes electrically charged and your water is electrically charged. Okay, how does it do this? And what happens to the ammonia when it gets there? Molecules are not little magnets, but for basic understanding of how molecules work, it is convenient to imagine that they behave just like little magnets. When we played with magnets as children, we discovered that two similar magnet poles repelled each other, but opposite poles attract and will stick together. Molecules behave just like that, but the forces are electrically charged, similar to static electricity, not magnetism. Okay? And you thought understanding water chemistry was easy, huh? The charge on an ammonia molecule, NH4 plus, is positive, and the charge on the inside the BCB baskets or your plenum are negative. Opposite charges attract, and so ammonia molecules will be pulled inside through zones A, B, and C as I have already described. So the laterite, kitty litter, or whatever has been responsible for the attraction ammonia from the pond or aquarium water flowing past the basket right into the center. And that's exactly what happens when you have a plenum. It does the same thing as a BCB basket. Although some of the ammonia will have been totally disposed of along the way, much will still remain, and once it is there, it cannot escape. The way ammonia is taken up by plant roots is a complex relationship involving yet more molecule charges, and it is not necessary to understand this mechanism in order to understand how biocenosis clarification baskets work or how a plenum works. It is sufficient to say that the biocenosis basket or the laterite or the clay or your plenum attracts ammonia right up to the plant roots and holds it there. When the plant is good and ready, depending on more biochemistry, its roots will simply absorb the ammonia and the plant will produce luxuriant growth. Yet more ammonia has been permanently removed from the pond or the aquarium ecology. Let's see, what happens in unplanted baskets? Like you can plant plants in a BCB, or let's say your aquarium. You decide, I don't want plants, or you decide, as some have advocated, that I don't want 70% of my aquarium to be full of plants. I would only like a few plants, and that is it. Because of the fish I have, or whatever purpose, or maybe you're using Java fern that doesn't really need to be in a substrate. You know, you can put it on rocks and both. Whoa, now what, right? Oh, well, don't worry about that. More bugs, I'm afraid. For those biocenosis baskets or plenums that do not contain plants, the facultative anaerobic bacteria that inhabit zone C will perform a second clever trick. Earlier, we discussed that these bacteria prefer to take oxygen directly from the pond or aquarium water. But when there was little or no oxygen available, as in zone C, their first trick was to obtain some by taking the atoms of oxygen from any nitrate that has been produced by the nitrifying bacteria, Nitrosomonas and Nitrobacteria. It will also steal oxygen from phosphates. Isn't that wonderful? You don't even think about it. Phosphates has oxygen. So, if nitrates are being exhausted, it will start stealing oxygen from phosphate, turn into phosphorus. So it will keep your phosphate levels down. I did a video about that. It gets very, very complicated how these bacteria steal oxygen. And one of the places they steal it is nitrates, and the other place they steal it is from phosphates. For us, the aquarium hobbyists, and for the pond hobbyists, this is wonderful news. Great news, as explained by Dr. Uh, Falco, from Italy. He explained that he made some baskets and put them in his goldfish tank. And he said, hey, my phosphates also went down and disappeared. He said it just wasn't nitrates because the bugs inside there were actually consuming the phosphate oxygen and taking it from them and breaking down the phosphates. For us, this is great news to keep your aquarium without all kinds of algae problems, okay? What happens when they have used up all the nitrate? They simply switch to directly metabolize ammonia to produce their energy needs. The expression clever as a sack of monkeys should be changed to clever as a basket of bugs. Whether or not the biocenosis basket or plenum contains plants, the ammonia that is drawn into the basket or into the plenum has no escape. If plants don't get it, the bugs will. Not every pond keeper or plant keeper wants to have an aquarium or pond full of aquatic plants behind their koi pond or inside their aquarium. Or they may not want to have the space to do so. The fact that the biocenosis baskets do not have to contain plants to mop up ammonia because of a colony of bugs will soon develop and will take the opportunity of a free ammonia lunch enables anoxic filtration to be situated indoors or disguised under decks or anything else. In our aquarium, it is just disguised as a plenum and it is disguised as part of our substrate. So that's enough of this video for now. The next will be building a system, and I hope you understand that these bacteria steal oxygen from nitrates and phosphates. So if you can make this, and you could start using maybe some of those phosphate pads, which I can show, and let the bugs do their work. Use a phosphate pad. You can get your phosphates down real low and to accomplish zero phosphates. A lot of people are worried that, oh, well, the plants need the phosphates. And don't worry about the phosphates and stuff because it's going to be in the plenum and your roots can grab it when they need it. You see, people aren't thinking of the science behind it. Don't worry. Nitrates are in there, phosphates are in there. They'll grab what they need and let the bacteria or the bugs take care of the rest because you don't want to keep building these ions or these insults up in your aquarium. You want them to get out of your aquarium because every day, remember, every day is a new day. Every day you're going to have more nitrates and every day you're going to have more phosphates being introduced into your aquarium. So don't worry about it. Don't get, don't go all upset. Oh, my plants, they need nitrate, they need phosphate. Don't worry about it. Every day you're going to have a new source of nitrates and phosphates coming into your tank. The plants will take what they need and let the bugs take what they need. And you'll have a successful aquarium. So I've taken up enough of your time with this video. So until next time, this is Dr. Novak. Happy aquarium keeping.